An open letter to the Games Media Awards. Dear GMAs, it was with no small sense of pride and expectation that the One Life Left team attended the Games Media Awards on Thursday the 10th of October. We were assured victory was a formality, not least because we were the only nominee in the radio podcast category that fulfills both halves of the award description, unless you count Adam Ross's Radio 5 show, which we don't, because it's on medium wave. In retrospect, we should have known something was up when we were greeted in the coat queue by an Intent Media employee with, "What are you guys doing here? Are you nominated or something?" The choice of table, right at the back of the room, not far from other fading stars like One Life Left's Steve Boxer, should have been another indication. But we just assumed you'd arrange things like that so we could lap up the applause on the way to the stage. So confident of victory were we that when One Life Left's Daniel Nye Griffiths offered us his congratulations just before the ceremony, it took every ounce of our collective willpower to feign surprise and modesty. Us? No, gosh, that's ever so kind of you, but we're just doing our own thing. We don't need this kind of recognition, and besides, we voted for Guy Cocker. I mean, he deserves it, doesn't he? Winky smiley. When the awards began, we noticed a pattern. One Life Left's John Blythe steps up to collect the first award. In his acceptance speech, he notes that dreams can come true, and we smile. We know, John, we know. Next up is best friend of the show, One Life Left's Helen Lewis. Then One Life Left's Keith Stewart, who didn't even turn up, but instead sent One Life Left's Steve Hoggerty up to collect his award, gets one too. One Life Left's Eurogamer, provider of our news for the last 200 episodes, gets the next one for best website. Are you noticing a pattern, GMAs? Can you understand what it was like to be in our head at that moment as every single one of your awards celebrated another vital part of the One Life Left collective? And the Best Radio Show Podcast Award goes to... An idiot in the crowd shouts out Guy Cocker. A part of my heart breaks for Guy. How awful to have that moment of hope. And then the MC speaks to correct him and says, "That's right, Guy Cocker." Guy Cocker. Not even One Life Left's Guy Cocker, even though he is. Just Guy Cocker. It took everything we had not to leave right there and then, GMAs, but we held off. We held off until the final award of the evening, just in case. Games Media Legend. Could it be? Was this your plan all along? No, it wasn't. That went to One Life Left's Paul Presley, who we had as a guest on the show last season. We made Prezza. We made him. And there he was, on the stage, collecting awards. One of our friends, one of our fotzes, without us. He left the stage, and then it was over. Just us, One Life Left, alone, awardless, again. Carefully clearing a table in order to flip it over without causing a scene. What do we have to do, GMAs? We had a spectacular 12 months. We've broadcast from the four corners of the world: London, Malmo, San Francisco and Nottingham. We've recorded our 200th episode. We've had illustrious guests, like the award-winning Guy Cocker. So in many senses, he's a subset of our show. And perhaps that was your thought, that you wanted to support the little guy, the upstart, show some love to people who really need it. But let us tell you, GMAs, we need it. We need your love. We need your validation. We need that award. So what do we have to do? Tell us. Do we have to be good? We'll see you in court. or failing that, next year. Yours, One Life Left.
Wow!
So that should do it, shouldn't it?
Follow that. How you doing, Steve?
I'm a bit wound up.
Are you? So are we communicating with the Games Media Awards via open letters now?
Yeah, I think that's
Are
how
we
it's done,
Miley or
isn't it?
or Sinead?
I'll leave that to the listeners to decide. So we've had a good week, haven't we?
It's been a great week, yeah. Thursday aside.
Oh, what a disappointment.
And that's going to be the latest news introduction you'll have had in our 201 episodes. It's so worth it, though.
Wasn't it? Oh, next year. It will all be worth it next year.
Let's assume so. Should we get on with it then?
We should. Yeah, it's not just us. Imagine if it was just us in the studio. After that, they would. When the next show came in at 7:59, they'd find our lifeless bodies slumped over microphones, tears emerging from our veins. But no, thankfully, to keep spirits up, we've got two guests in the studio this evening. Bonus. We've got one bonus, one actual. The actual guest is Andrew Hewson. Hello, Andrew.
Good evening, everybody.
Andrew, how do I introduce you? Because you're not from Hewson Consultants anymore, are you?
Well, I was.
You were? What are you now?
I'm an accountant, would you believe?
Yeah.
I look after loads of small businesses, and I make them feel better about all the difficulties that
Is
they
that right?
have.
Oh, we're a small business with lots of difficulties.
And also,
Well, I should be along here more often too. Just have a look at your books and check you out.
well, also, as an accountant, could you go through some award nominations, like count up the votes? Could you audit them?
Well, I'm not an auditor, so you've got to have somebody, somebody really dull, because.
And here's Keith Stewart.
This is a truism, isn't it? That auditing is for people who find accountancy too exciting.
Is it? Okay, well, we're going to talk to you about accountancy shortly. We're not, obviously, because we're going to talk about your games industry past, but also joining him. It was a cheap joke, Keith. I'm really sorry.
Thanks for that. That's what I expect from you, Simon, to be
No,
honest.
but it's only because we love you so much that we're able to say these things, isn't it? It's the Guardian's games editor now.
I am.
That's a recent. That happened recently, didn't it?
Yeah, I was kind of lurking on the periphery of that job title for a long time,
Okay.
and then they decided to make it official because I wouldn't go away.
Right. So So after your appearance on One Life Left last time, after that, this is true. You were promoted to Guardian Games editor. I mean, there was
Where's
some
this going?
distance.
Yes.
I'm just trying to,
And actually, in fact, the last time I was on, I think it was with Paul Presley as well. I think he was on at the same time as me. So.
Have you been on Guy Cocker's radio show?
I have, yes.
Interesting.
That is
What happened to your job after that? Up or down?
I think maybe I had, what am I supposed to say, a dip? A dip in my
Good. All right. Well, let's crack on. This is late already. We've got lots to get through, but let's start off as we always do with Anne's news.
Monday the 14th of September, I'm Anne Scantlebury and this is the news. THQ is suing EA and Zuffa over the UFC licence. Troubled publisher THQ believes UFC brand owner Zuffa broke their contract and gave it to EA through fraudulent negotiations. EA was in talks to buy THQ in 2011 and was given access to financial information. After talks broke off, THQ says Zuffa threatened to break its UFC licence based on the publisher's insolvency. Court documents say, on information and belief, EA communicated THQ's internal financial information and projections to Zuffa.
Is THQ still going then?
Well,
still flapping about, suing,
flapping,
threatening to
in
sue
a mild way.
Right.
Yeah.
How so? There must be a handful of employees there. I heard that was the case, that they were sort of finishing off busince before the heart stops beating.
Yeah, we've just got through. So we've made everybody redundant.
Tick.
We've paid off most of our debts.
Tick.
We've sold the office furniture.
Tick.
Got rid of our IP.
Tick.
Now, all that's need to do is we just need to lock the building and switch the... Hang on a minute! Sue EA! Is that what happens?
Yeah, I think when you're shutting something down, you've got nothing to lose.
Right,
They've got nothing to lose. Oh, what? We failed at suing you.
Well,
brilliant. We've got no money.
Yeah, what would happen if they won?
Would they be like,
Wait!
guys, we're back.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow. So what are their chances?
7 out of 10. Rockstar is making up for the terrible first few days of GTA Online by throwing so much fake money at the problem. The special stimulus package for anyone who has played in October is a bank drop of $500,000 GTA dollars straight into your not real bank account. The money will be deposited in 2 separate amounts so the feds don't notice anything. There are of course T's and C's, but if someone offers to drop $500,000 into your bank account, you should accept all the T's and C's immediately.
Are you still playing GTA?
No.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Why not? Bored?
Not bored, no.
Other things?
Yeah, other things have been happening.
Real things or game things?
I've been enjoying GTA, but I'm concerned that I'll get to a moment where it becomes too difficult for little old me, and then I'll be frustrated. Yeah, I don't know. I certainly haven't gone online. Have you?
I haven't yet. I'm excited about doing it. I haven't been able to play it for ages because I've been busy with
busy,
other things. Yeah.
I am genuinely only going to log on online to get my $500,000. No, I am.
You have to have played it in October online, though.
Don't say
Yeah,
that.
it's still October.
We could play it together, Simon.
We could log on and get $500,000 each. What are you going to do with that money, Anne?
I just said it was the 14th of September.
Wow.
What an
This is
idiot.
before we didn't win a GMA.
Sorry, guys. What would I do with my $500,000?
Well, even then, my point would have been more valid because it wasn't October yet.
Surely you could give it to EA so they could pass it on to THQ.
Very wise.
There is, isn't there so I don't understand what the money's for in GTA. Does anybody like?
Yeah, I mean, I was good. This is my review from later on, so I don't want to ruin anything.
Okay.
If I'm allowed that spot, but the money is spent on weapons and clothing and apartments and cars, that sort of thing.
So could you obtain the money elsewhere?
Yeah, you obtain the money by doing job submissions and stealing cars. I'm a very good car thief now.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah. So and another naughty, nefarious activity. So that's how you earn it.
So you can't buy this money. These aren't in
You
apps,
can,
are they?
in fact. In fact, there's been enormous controversy about the fact that Rockstar have introduced microtransactions. So you can as well as earning the money in the game, you can actually buy cash cards full of this money.
Okay. So how much is $500,000 worth in real money?
God, I knew you were going to ask me that.
But then why didn't you look into it?
I know that you can get $2.5 million for £13. So do we have to divide?
And all it.
And I'll divide that by 5.
Wait, $2.5 million?
Yes.
How many are we having?
For $500,000.
I don't know.
Andrew's an accountant.
Oh, yeah.
5. I'd just like to ask, really, whether being a good car thief is now a qualification for being the games editor of The Guardian.
Apparently so.
Oh, well, there we go.
We do.
Things have changed since my day, I suppose.
We're going to come on to your day in a minute. You hold your horses.
Crytek has explained that the female soldiers in Warface are so sexy because that's what the audience asked for. Speaking to Wired, Crytek's Joshua Howard explained that the male-dominated Russian audience wanted realistic-looking male soldiers and not realistic-looking female soldiers. He noted that the company stopped short of putting the women soldiers in high heels. The game is due on Xbox 360 in early 2014. If Crytek is taking suggestions, we would like both male and female soldiers to have the head of Mickey Mouse, the arms of a T-Rex, the body of Peter Andre, and the legs of a baby.
We didn't but at least we didn't put them in high heels. That's excellent. That's an excellent response.
That would have just been ridiculous.
Warface.
We could have done that, but we didn't. So, who's wrong here?
It's called Warface.
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 Not war heels.
It sounds like a Charlie Brooker invention from the 90s, doesn't it?
Because back in your day, Andrew, there would have been no controversy about this sort of thing at all. I'm not saying you were part of it, but if you think of how video games represented ladies in the past, my mind springs back to the Joe Guest advert with what was that?
Oh, that was Battlecruiser 3000. Should I have had instant recall?
I'm noting. I'm going to make a note that Keith remembered that first.
You can go back further than that with the Barbarian
Sam
Maria
Maria
Whittaker.
Whittaker, yeah.
Palace Software. I'm obviously at the wrong paper.
But I remember they had to draw a dress on her for the repeated adverts.
But at least I didn't have to draw heels, Steve.
Like Taylor Swift, the Xbox One has announced its UK tour dates. The console will be exhibiting itself in London from the 25th of October to the 3rd of November and in Manchester from the 18th to the 27th of November. There will be ticketed slots and those attending will need to be 16 or over. As with Taylor Swift, the rules are no touching, don't look it in the eye, and if you say Xbox off at an unacceptable moment, the console will never, ever, ever switch itself back on.
That's very good. Best of the season.
Yeah,
maybe.
there was that tweet, wasn't there, from the developer saying that people shouting Xbox off over the company tannoy has become boring very quickly.
It's not boring to us.
No, it's not.
Oh, that's going to be brilliant,
Isn't it? We're going to be able to do that
On
from
radio.
November. Yeah, exactly. Actually,
People could be listening to this in November, shouldn't they? Couldn't
Yeah.
they? Because
Can you listen to podcasts on your Xbox One? It depends if they can put adverts on it, doesn't it?
Can we just do a test? Somebody switch on your Xbox. At the end of the news, we're going to shout Xbox off and see if it works
okay.
in November.
So, are we interested in going to see the Xbox One on tour?
I want to know what kind of a rider it's going to have. Like, I don't know what.
Sean Ryder was in my office this week.
No way.
He was, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not clear on this. Maybe we should just have a quick One Life Left meeting.
Okay.
I noticed that Dom Carey,
Yeah.
he offered his thanks and congratulations to Guy Cocker.
He did, yes. He's
Twitter.
on. I've got the list here.
So
We're gonna
he
run-
is,
yeah.
although we don't talk about who's on the list,
Here it is.
there it is. And so we're all for PlayStation right now.
We are, yeah.
It was interesting to see that after all the kind of controversy with the E3 and everyone was saying that PlayStation 4 had won. And it's interesting now we've now the issue has shifted into the kind of retail season where it's the consumers are going to decide. And like John Lewis recently announced that they thought Xbox One was going to do better than PS4. It's interesting how are we as a group of journalists still reflecting what people want? I mean,
Yes, we are.
Well, what we're doing is we're looking at whether Dom Carey is congratulating other people in our category, and we're making our decisions based on that.
I'm an outside of your bizarre and distinctive bubble.
Come and join us, Keith. Come on in, the water's lovely.
And finally, if you've ever thought of signing up for an evening class but couldn't pick a subject, have we got something for you? EVE Online Creator CCP is holding hour-long evening seminars for people who are struggling with the MMO. The new player training sessions will begin at 5 p.m. GMT. Topics will change every month. The first topic is player versus player combat. Please note that while lessons do count towards your end-of-term grades, it's advised that you do not include this in the education section of your CV.
Okay, we should definitely go to these. They sound boring, but we could have fun, and it could be a funny time.
Sorry, are they real life things?
They're online.
Yeah,
Wait,
we
isn't
should
that
do
on-
it. You
that's-
should do it.
Yeah.
Because then me and Simon don't have to get bored.
Yeah.
But it could still be funny.
Wait, I'm not taking notes for you and letting you pass. This isn't how it works, Steve.
No, you should go. You should go, and you should see if you can get one of the boys to do the homework for you. Do your
That's
homework for
also
them.
not how this works, Steve.
Okay.
Can you try and make it work that way?
Okay.
This seems like a nice idea, doesn't it? For those baffled by...
It's a good idea.
Yeah, but we're not good enough for us to do
being
it.
silly about it. It is nice, and Eve has always been one of the forerunners. It's been one of the standout games in community terms that's had a whole sort of ecosystem that exists around the games. There are, you can get hired to do jobs in Eve that don't have anything to do with actually playing the game. You can be an accountant, even. I don't know if that interests you.
That makes it really interesting.
There we
to be
go.
honest.
You see. So yeah, it's nice they're doing all this
Can I-
community stuff as well.
Can I get a job being EVE Online's Taylor Swift?
You could write to them. You
I
could
definitely-
go to the seminar and just keep putting up your hand and saying, Sir, what if this means nothing to me and I just want to be EVE Online's Taylor Swift?
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm going to do that.
See what happens.
Is there like a practical test at the end where you have to reverse park your battle cruiser between the two moons of Saturn?
I suppose we'll find out when Anne joins, right?
Right.
One Life Left video game news with Anne Scantleberry.
Hello, I'm Sega Badawi and welcome to One Life Left local news. A councillor has objected to a story in the press which has named his father as the lizard who hated the Mushroom Kingdom. The councillor, Bowser Jr., says that the article does not take into account that his father fought for the Mushroom Kingdom in the vicious and violent 16-bit wars. It also didn't acknowledge his father's great love of cake. The newspaper is sticking to its story, adding that if Bowser Jr.'s dad loved the Mushroom Kingdom so much, then why did he keep kidnapping Princess Peach? Thanks, and back to your usual programming.
One Life Left on Resonance 104.4 FM, and this is the one electronic. It's called Biting the Pavement. Guy Cocker. We've had an email about him already, haven't we? It's not an email, it's a tweet we've had.
What does it say?
One of our listeners has written in to point out, if you go to guycocker.com/about, it says, what does it say? Welcome to Guy Cocker's Wesbite.
It's a Wesbite.
I don't know, I can't make head or tail of it.
Good.
One life left,
what's
Guy
the
Cocker?
objective here?
It's one of us.
Yeah, what happened to the other winners? They've all shut down, haven't they? They've all got out of the game.
After 6 months of relentless One Life Left bullying, they all decided it's not worth it and they've gone home. And that ultimately will leave the way clear for us to win an award.
He invited me on his show a while ago.
He invited me on his show.
Didn't invite me. Here we are. One Life Left. We're a video game radio show and award-losing podcast.
Let's talk video games.
Let's do it.
Andrew Hewson,
Good evening.
welcome.
Thank you.
So I was trying to work out whether we'd met before.
I was on the tube earlier on. Were you there?
I wasn't, no.
there were a number of people there. It was very crowded.
Right, but I was in video game journalism in 1992 on a magazine called The One. You were already well into your video game career by then, weren't you?
I certainly was. I was in my second coming, so to speak.
So you founded Hewson Consultants
in 1980.
1980. That
33 years ago.
So
I'm not very old.
We had Darren Wall on a couple of weeks ago. He was here to
Yes.
talk about sensible soccer. And the book, and that was talking about the old video game development
Sure.
scene. This predates even that, doesn't it?
Well, I would say, yes, Sensible Soccer were in the business about 83. I would think.
Whippersnappers.
Well, I don't know. I was writing books, you see. That's where I started.
Okay.
Hints and tips for the ZX80. I'm sure most of your listeners will have read it by now because it's been out a long time.
Right. And so Hewson, I think it's fair to say, became one of the... I mean, it published some of the most fondly remembered computer games, as they were then, of all time, right?
That's very kind of you to say. We do have a couple in the top 100, people's top 100, certainly.
So Paradroid and Uridium...
Paradroid, Uridium, Avalon on the Spectrum, Exelon, Nebulous...
Nebulous, of course, and then of course moving on to the Pinball Dreams series of games.
Pinball Dreams, Pinball Fantasies, Pinball Illusions, all sorts.
So, what was it like? How did you get into it? What was it like back then?
Right. Well, what it was like back then was that anybody could join in. It was really a free for all, and I joined in because I was a scientist. Would you believe that was my mission in life, was to be a scientist.
Well, you were working at the British Museum, is that right? And you saw them take their first ever computer in
1973. Yes, we were given a computer because we were the scientists, and obviously lots of archaeologists and keepers and sort of security people, and they're very boring, aren't they? So they took the computer and they said, it's technical, it better go to the scientists in the research lab. So we had the toy to play with, and
what could it could play Space War, and that was it, wasn't it?
There was certainly Star Trek on it. I used to play that at lunchtime. That was
how big was it?
Well, this is on a 17-inch screen, black, with green stars on it to represent the Klingons.
But how big was the actual physical computer?
Okay. It sat in a room as big as this studio.
Right.
So, yes, I've got all the stories. 2 megabit hard drives, bigger than twice the size, about the size of a huge pizza.
Right.
The bootstrapping was a piece of paper tape, and there we are. Stick it in the bootstrap reader. And away it goes.
Wow.
It comes into... And the memory...
And that was where Clive Sinclair got the idea for the Spectrum loading noise, was it?
Yes, we used to be able to do that, didn't we? And then it was those modems.
Yeah. somewhere, you've just made a computer display say something very rude.
Yes,
Xbox
exactly.
off.
Xbox off. Yes.
So you got into it. So you were working at the British Museum. You were a scientist, and then you decided to create your own, or
I wanted to make some money. To be honest, I was poor. My career wasn't going anywhere. I couldn't write. It seems remarkable, but when you're a scientist, you have to write academic papers, don't you? And I sat down to write my first one, and it took me a year to get these ideas boiling in my head, boiling, get them down on paper. But they're boiling in my head, can't get them down. Boiling, can't get them down. It took a year of these incomplete sentences. Oh, that's not a sentence. It hasn't got a verb verb in it. That can't be a sentence. I learnt that at school. And so actually what happened, I was poor. I wanted to write. Uncle Clive Sinclair came out with his ZX80. It cost £100.
Yeah.
I went to the bank and borrowed £500 because, I'm sort of
Just
dangerous.
in case.
Dangerous, yeah, exactly. I bought an old desk, a second-hand typewriter. I commandeered the third bedroom and I sat down with his ZX80 with all my 7 years' experience of programming in Fortran 4 at my disposal. And I peeked and poked at it and, fiddled around and worked out what was going on. And I tell you, I was one of, there were other people who wrote books at the same time.
Yeah.
I wanted to write, and that's what I did. I wrote the notes. My wife, pregnant with our second child, who's now a games designer, by the way, and she typed it up on this old second-hand typewriter. I took it down to a photocopying shop, and you've got to understand, photocopying was like pretty exciting then. It was new, and you could look. You can get lots of copies, and a photocopying shop, saddle stitched. Does anyone know about saddle stitching?
Yeah, I was taught it at school as a punishment.
Yes, we saddle stitched it, and I put adverts in Practical Computing and Personal Computer Words, small ads, small. I mean small, like that, and then writing, small ad, writing, small ad, writing. Oh, look! In the morning, coming down the stairs, there's the front door, there's some letters on the map. Open the letters, they're from people I don't know, and they've sent me cheques. They sent me postal orders. We don't see postal orders anymore, but there they are. And you open it, you can't imagine. You haven't even had your breakfast, you haven't had a cup of tea, and somebody sent you some money.
Wow.
What a
Write
glorious
this down.
feeling.
Yeah.
Write this down.
What a glorious feeling.
So, did you have any ideas? That was very early on.
Yes.
When we got into sort of things like Paradroid and Uridium, I think then the audience was growing.
Yeah, what happened was I got offered to do a column in Sinclair User, one of the computer magazines, Hewson Helpline they called it, and somebody rang me up from a distant place called London and came down and took a photograph of me holding this book. It was hints and tips of the ZX81 by this time, and so there am I in the Hewson Helpline, and we're selling the book, and somebody sent us some memory for the ZX81 because it was small, we could sell extra memory, so we started selling other people's memory, and then Mike Mail sent us Night Flight, which was a flight simulator for the ZX81. So we started publishing other people's games.
And presumably it was Night Flight because the graphics were so rudimentary that you could only distinguish harshly between day and night.
It was brilliant.
I guess.
It was brilliant, Night Flight. You had the instruments at the bottom and it was black at the top.
Yeah,
because
it was night.
Flying at night. and so the 3D simulation of the runway was of the runway lights, and that was all you ever saw, the instrument panel. So basically it was flying by instruments. Right. And of course it did brilliantly. Went into W.H. Smith. W.H. Smiths were wonderful in those days. And then, of course, Steve Turner came along, Steve Turner of Graph Gold, with because we were getting cassettes through the door from all sorts of people trying stuff. Most of the stuff was not very good at all.
And you had to wait 5 minutes to find that out, didn't you?
5 minutes to load it, and then, it's not very good. But every now and again, you do just a gem. And, of course, Steve's 3D Space Wars was the one from him. And then we did Zydab Attack. Now, if you struggle really hard to think how Zydab spells the other way around, you can see how limited we were in our thing. Yeah, you're working on it. Write it down. Zydab Attack. And then Lunar Attack. And those three were all from Steve, all using roughly the same, because Steve was a great one for reusing code. And then Avalon, which was an adventure, and I'm sure one or two of your listeners will remember Avalon. And of course, the thing that you're really getting to is that Andrew Braybrook joined Steve Turner.
Simon's not getting to anything right now apart from Zydab, which he's writing down in all
Sorry, I'm talking too much. Shall I stop now?
No. So what's Andrew up to these days?
He's still working. Believe it or not, he's coming up to retirement. But I'm not old.
Wow.
I'm very young. I'm not near. I was older than them in those days. But these days, by a magical means, I've turned out to be younger.
So I need to bring you right up to date though, because we're filling our time. What are you doing now?
I'm
part of
writing
Accountancy.
a book.
You're writing a book. So tell us about the book.
I'm writing a book, Hints and Tips for Video Game Pioneers. There you are. And if that doesn't say it all, I can't think of a shorter sentence that will say it. Basically, it's about what the life was like then. It's about our programmers, people that we work with, including Andreas Axelsson, for example, of DICE, who did the pinball series for us. Raf Checo, all sorts of people, and it's about what it was like to be in the pioneers, and also what lessons there are for people today writing.
So what years will it cover then? From your start in the early 80s through until
1994-5.
Okay.
I dropped out about that sort of time and went away and had a long rest.
Right. Do you regret dropping out or not?
No, not at all, because life moves on and the world was different and they were all closed platforms. And I'm really bored. When you talk about THQ or whoever they were called suing EA, I don't care. I don't care.
About your news, Anne.
Pick the right one.
So, hints and tips for video game pioneers then.
And we're launching a Kickstarter campaign
Excellent.
in a few days. And you
in a few days.
Put your money down and you can give us 25 quid and you can get a copy and a poster of the Zap 64 Paradroid artwork by Oliver Frey.
Excellent.
Included with it. Now, is that a good deal or what?
Ollie Frey, of course, yeah.
Oliver Frey. And he's still going with us, and all that Zap 64 crew and all the people from Crash Micro.
Well, of course,
still around.
Gary wrote the Sensible Soccer book, didn't
Gary
he?
wrote the Sensible Soccer book, and Roger Keane is still. I'm sorry, I'm beginning to drop names now.
So the Kickstarter will launch around about the time that the podcast goes live, we think.
Yes.
So Wednesday or Thursday.
Wednesday or Thursday this week, depending on when we get our approval. Please give us that. Can we have our approval? Mr. Man in California, can we have our approval, please?
When are people likely to receive the books?
May 2014
Great.
is my day. I've got 30,000 words in the can. Some of them are pretty good words, some of them are a bit rubbish, and I have to polish them up.
Right.
Sorry about that. I'm still struggling with that.
No, that's great. So obviously you're going to stick around for the rest of the show, but will you come back on when the book launches?
I will do.
Excellent.
I'd love to be here.
Right. Thanks, Andrew.
It's Dr. Avatar.
You're needed in surgery immediately.
Avatar, you're the only one that can do this. You're gonna have to operate.
Dr. Avatar, operating room dictation on patient Stormcloak, Ulfric. Operative diagnosis, penetrating wound in the deep infrapatellar bursa by hollow-shafted medieval projectile. Estimated blood loss, 50 cc's, OR time 5 hours. Mr. Stormcloak was given tetanus toxoid vaccine due to unknown immune status. He was started on perioperative erythromycin for possible Clostridium infection, and then given regional anesthesia. After sterilization, the patellar space was retracted, and the projectile was removed manually. The tip of the projectile could not be retrieved, and thus arthroscopy was carried out. At this point, it was clear that invasion of the joint space had occurred with irreversible damage to the meniscus. All remnants of the foreign bodies were removed and sent for poison screening. The patient will be transferred to the orthopedics unit to discuss the possibility of joint replacement and physiotherapy. However, I fear his adventuring days are over. Ending dictation for patient Stormcloak, Ulfric.
Messages and forward BCC One Life letters.
Who's going first?
Hi, Simon. I hope you are well, says Sam Collins. Good luck at the GMAs tonight, not just with the winning thing, but achieving your challenges. From my experience, pushing over needs to be replaced with pulling back up again at the GMAs. As I list on podcast, I'm always a week late. Sorry. So I'm responding to something Steve said last week. My views are not my employer's, of course, he says. He goes on to say that Steve seemed uncomfortable about being encouraged to pay for a boost in Card Hunter. I'm sure he's aware that this is a free game made by real people who invested time, sweat and money into making it. He really shouldn't begrudge playing a small amount for a game that he has enjoyed playing for many hours. We're lucky as gamers to be able to access so many great and diverse games for free, whereas in the past the access point was 20 point minimum for a box game. We need to support and encourage indie devs. I'll get off my high horse now. Be interested to hear what Nick Lovell has to say on this next week. He knows all about it. Cheers from Sam.
He does, doesn't he? And I replied to Sam.
You did?
Do you have my reply? Because I've forgotten what I said. I do.
I'm not reading a letter out from you, unless I can do an impression of you.
Okay.
Please do it.
No, but to Tracy it, your problem was not spending money, was being forced into being made to feel like you had to.
I think my problem with Card Hunter is that all of the payment methods are subscription based, and I know I can see there's a point at which they're going to run out, and that means I know there's a point in the future where I'm going to feel like I'm losing out. And that doesn't work for me, and I wouldn't encourage the dev to change it, because clearly, if you look at the models of Puzzle and Dragons and Candy Crush, that works in such a crazy way for everybody else. But for me, it turned me off, and I could not give them any money. But I do support indie devs.
Exactly,
and I do believe you should buy things you love.
A lengthy correspondent with our listener Sam as well, which is nice. So if you want to
turn him around, he's still listening.
Exactly. But he's listening next week.
Another one saved.
Yes. Anne.
Hey Anne, what is going on with P''G' Martin Ullis? Is it a Halloween thing? Edgar, this is what Martin Hollis is now calling himself on Twitter. So I just asked him.
Right,
I'll let you know.
Okay, cool. Keith.
Wow, this is a letter from one of your contributors, I think Dr. Adam Avatar.
Okay.
And he says, "Hi team, I hate to say it, but contrary to what your statistician fan said last week, the average review score on One Life Left is actually 7.005. This is because a former presenter who must not be named gave Crackdown for Xbox 360 a score of 8 out of 10 in the first season."
We've been through this before. It was a misprint.
How can you make a misprint?
It's placeholder text, just like the GTA review in Edge.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on. Okay, this is from Duncan, who's writing every week to explain how he's getting on teaching his children to play video games, because we expressed concern, didn't we, a few weeks ago, that this was inappropriate. Dear Master Chief, Arbiter and Cortana, I snagged Cities XL Platinum in this week's Humble Bundle sale, since I know Edison likes games in which things get built. It's great, SimCity with bendy roads. I'm confident I can let him play it, since there's no enemies to shoot him dead, and hopefully no tantrums. But I don't want him to run his budget into the ground either, so I spend half the day explaining to him how important it is to get the right ratio of housing, industry and commerce. I demonstrate road placement techniques for traffic management and emphasise that too many service buildings will ruin his net income. He seems to take this in, so I hand over the reins. He builds a long, convoluted, wiggly road with a single house at the end, plops down half a dozen Ferris wheels and seems satisfied with that. Our town continues to take in plenty of revenue. I feel like I'm the one who learnt a lesson. From Duncan.
Thanks, Duncan.
Thanks, Duncan.
Andrew.
Hi, I've got one from Matthew Cooksey here. Hi, One Left and super guest, he says. I'm interested to get your opinions on ways multiplayer games build tension between players. I've been playing a lot of speedrunner with close friends. Now, I'm interested by that because do you not play speedrunner with not so close friends? I mean, is it illegal? Vitriol and frustration that ebbs and flows around the room when we play is palpable and extremely enjoyable, especially when firing off a rocket to scupper a close friend's chance of victory. Clearly, it's important that it's a close friend. I'm not quite sure about that. It's something modern that I'm too old to understand. What are some games you've enjoyed playing with friends in the same room over the years? Well, I couldn't possibly talk about that. That have changed you as a group in some way as a group. This is getting really quite close to the edge.
Steve and I used to play competitive Dance Revolution at trade shows.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've seen that. I was watching the Blues Brothers in Manchester day before yesterday at the Play Expo, and there's guys. Oh yeah, and I'm thinking it's great. To be honest, I prefer the film to watching somebody doing that in front of a video screen. But that's just me. Maybe I'm strange.
I thought when you said you'd seen that, you'd heard about Steve and I's rivalry.
Oh, sorry about that.
So much a rivalry, really.
No, it wasn't.
Domination. But yes, I love in-the-room gaming, and actually, on that subject, I've been in talks with a YouTube executive.
Oh yeah,
not actually employed by YouTube, but an executive who does stuff with YouTube, about what One Life Left should do on YouTube. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's competitive gaming in a enclosed space with very few cameras aimed at us.
Anything could happen.
Yeah. I don't know. But if you've got any ideas for what One Life Left should do on YouTube, please write into
team@onelifeleft.com.
Hi, Team Ool, says Cat Stevens.
Right.
Yeah, I know, it's OLL. But when that guy wrote Ool the other week, it made me giggle a bit. Maybe we could start a thing. All right. Fine. Let's start
you can call us what you want.
If it makes you giggle, Cat.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You know? You're welcome to it. Anyway, I've spent... well, that's the theme.
It's the theme going. Right, end of letters.
Should I start it again for this letter, or should I do it a cappella?
Do
Yeah.
it.
Push on.
Tell us, Steve.
Capella. Anyway, I've spent the past couple of hours trying to write some video game-based jokes for you to steal on One Life Left. I've come to the conclusion that you're effed. Sorry, you can't say effed on air. Well, I can say effed.
But she
Can
wrote
you?
the full thing out, didn't she?
Yeah,
Does that mean
she did.
finished?
That works.
Yeah.
Is est allowed? Screwed. Screwed is allowed.
Screwed. It's just it's a medical.
Screwed is completely allowed. It's
It's
biological.
just a part of the body. Yeah.
Part of the body. I've come to the conclusion that you're effing screwed.
You're Ofcom screwed.
I'm definitely coming, though, as I reckon it'll be pretty entertaining to watch you all down on stage. Wait a second.
What's this?
Oh, I see. This is from 2010, which Cat Stevens is pointing out because she made OOL a thing in 2010. Because Gmail, being Gmail, has bumped this up to the top of our inbox again, and actually, on 10th of October 2013, Cat Stevens, veteran listener Cat Stevens, says, "Of course it's a thing. I can't believe you haven't memorised all of the letters you had in 2010.
Right, okay. But she was completely right about being screwed, wasn't she?
She was.
Yeah, we certainly were. Right, thanks ever so much for writing in. Obviously, the address is
Team at
catch us
onelifeleft.com.
on Twitter and all of that sort of thing.
We have had some tweets. Maybe we could round those up after some music.
Okay.
One Laugh Left was 3 years ago.
3 years.
3 years ago, because that's what
one laugh left. Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
Cat Stevens was writing about.
So much has happened,
That's amazing.
and yet we've learned so little.
We have learned almost nothing. Of course, we're at Nottingham again this year. We'll be doing one death left.
We've been the rules have been submitted to the organisers. Mm-hmm. You looking forward to this, Keith?
I am, yeah. I don't know. Are you allowed to say what's going on, or is it just
One
a surprise?
death left.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Someone
sorry.
gets dead.
It's gonna. Right. Okay. I love that Anne looked at me as though it's me, as though it's me that gets dead.
I think you're safe, actually,
Oh,
Keith.
you.
In a world in which Guy Cocker is living, I think you are
My
safe.
safety depends on the existence of Guy Cocker.
Stand behind him.
Yeah. Well.
Of course, we don't know that he's living. We haven't heard from him in the last half hour. So, if you're out there, Guy, and listening, we assume you are, because you're one life left, Guy Cocker. Just, drop us an email, tweet, phone call, anything really. Pop by. Lovely to see you. So that was who was that? That was Jakim, and it was called Colon D.
I enjoyed that. Yeah, it reminded me of another song, didn't it?
I don't know.
Was it a cover
I
version?
don't know. Did it?
Was it a cover version?
It might be. It was called Colon D, so I doubt it.
Colon D,
I think it was
yeah.
just a bit laid back.
Okay, that's nice.
That's from chipmusic.org, which you should go to and have a look. What else is there? Maybe submit your own piece of chip tune and see how that goes. Are we talking about anything now, or should I just go
Straight into reviews, isn't it?
Straight into reviews.
I thought that was what was going on.
Sorry, I had no idea. We hadn't discussed it beforehand. Mind you, 201 shows now. You'd think I'd know. Reviews. Who wants to go first? I'll go first. If you want.
That would be a change.
Yeah. Okay. I've been playing Cookie Clicker. Do we know what Cookie Clicker is?
It's one of those internet meme games that you cool kids on Twitter chat about, isn't it? It's that and Salty Bet and that other one that they did, Candy.
That dude's at Nottingham. The Candy Man.
Candy, yeah, is he?
Yeah.
Say that again.
Candy Man.
Say it one more time.
Xbox off. So, Cookie Clicker is one of those games that maybe is sort of tongue-in-cheek, designed to show people how easy it is to get addicted to something that is basically worthless. It begins with a big cookie, and you click on it to make a cookie, and then you click on it again, you make another one. And after 100 or so clicks, you can buy a grandma to help you. You can buy a pointer that will also click on the cookie automatically. And you spend cookies on buying these things, and then you buy a cookie factory, a cookie farm before that. Ultimately, you end up buying a cookie portal to the cookie dimension, where you'll discover more cookies, cookie antimatter to collapse the universe in on itself and bake cookies. And these cost millions and millions of cookies, and you end up clicking. And I played it slightly knowingly in a way. Look, I was showing it to my mum, actually. Look at this game, isn't it silly? She wasn't interested, because she wouldn't buy into the narrative, which begins with you bake a cookie and no one's interested, and she was like, that's ridiculous, I'm not playing it. Meanwhile, I sunk into a cookie clicker addiction, which I had been trying to avoid since 2 weeks ago. It was sort of vogue, and I was like, yeah, you guys play this for me. So yeah, I've baked hundreds and thousands of millions of cookies. It is currently at home as we speak, baking some more. I didn't turn off my laptop deliberately so that I would be able to buy some more antimatter cookies when I get home.
Right.
Cookie factories.
Isn't this just an extension of Cow Clicker, that Ian Bogos game?
It is absolutely a Cow Clicker related thing. And Ian's thing was sort of mocking these things. This is slightly less knowing. This is definitely more interested in monetising. But it is nicely produced, and it has trapped me in this vortex of cookies.
So it's an actual game you can pay money for?
It's got a donate button at the bottom. Cleverly, the donate button is placed just below where all of the it's not directly monetised, so it's kind of nicer than charging you for cookies, but you buy factories, you buy antimatter things, you buy portals, blah blah blah, and then at the end it's just you can't buy anything else, but why not give us some money? Alright, I will. What I think is interesting, beyond the sort of general points about this me being addicted to this thing and thinking I should know better but still being addicted, is the fact that I'm having to keep my computer on right now. And that is wasting electricity, which I'm paying for.
It's only wasting if it's wasteful. It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you're baking cookies.
It is wasting cycles of processing power. Now, there are those things which use your spare processing power to
folding at home,
find aliens and cure cancer and stuff. Why doesn't one of these organisations make something as compelling as this and give me an actual reason to have my computer on? Then I won't feel so bad. 7 out of 10. Simon?
I've been playing Papers, Please.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's one of those games those cool kids on the internet go on about on Twitter and vote for at the IGF.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So I thought I'd let them get on with it for a few weeks. And then, it's good. It's a game in which you play a worker in a fictional Soviet state, I guess. That's the implication. And your job is to permit or deny entry into the country depending on an increasingly complicated set of criteria. And it's very clever, and I like it a lot. It's very knowing. It makes a game out of the mundane roles that you imagine one of those jobs needs to do, but then it introduces element of personalities, and you're working to keep your family warm and safe with a roof over their head and happy, and you earn money by letting people into the country. But if you let in people who shouldn't be let in and get caught, you will then be fined, or worse, one of them could be a terrorist and can walk past and blow up a checkpoint, at which point the day is ended early and your earning potential goes in. It's amazing how affected you get by these people that come in. I haven't played it to the end yet. I think it's got multiple endings after 30 days. It's got sort of day 10, and you sort of like on day 5, a guy says he had to let me in, and then he says, "Oh, my wife's been immediately behind me. Can you watch out for her, make sure she gets through safely?" And you know that she's not going to have her correct papers, and she comes up, and you have to go, "Where are your papers, please?" And she's like, "Please let me through." And you're like, "Oh," I felt sorry for her. Fortunately, she wasn't a terrorist. It's got a lovely style. It was sort of £7 on Steam for those of us that pay for our Steam games. Steam. I got annoyed today when I saw it was £4. I did. I thought I was annoyed at myself again, but that's only anyway. It's really good. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Glad to be playing it away from the Twitter hype. 7 out of 10. Anne, what have you been playing?
I've been playing. How do you pronounce it? Guyana Sisters. Let's go with
Gianna
that.
Sisters.
Gianna Sisters. Okay.
And again, Andrew, you'll remember this. This was a game that was stopped. Gianna Sisters was not allowed to be published on the Commodore 64 because it was a rip-off of Mario. Is that right?
I have absolutely no idea.
What's the point of you being?
Well, it's the C64. I'm not so good on that.
Am I right?
You are. I mean, the original Great Gianna Sisters. I think it ran into problems. It was made on the Commodore 64 and Amiga.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I think they ran into legal trouble, but I think they actually managed to.
Okay, because now it's a legitimate thing. I see it advertised everywhere, and it used to be the game that you'd only own if you'd pirated it. So I, of course, never owned it.
Of course.
I'd love a copy, but
whereas who got my games for free.
That's right. So sorry, Anne.
Yeah. So yes, they've got a new. Well, it's on PlayStation Plus. So I didn't pay for it. Brilliant. And it's lovely. It's a really nice little platformer. So one of the sisters gets stolen, and then the other one has to go and find her, and has split personalities, and is in one sort of realm is really cute, but that's the nightmare realm, and then the other realm is the dream one, and she's like really punky. But you have to switch between them. So if you're in one level, you can see other diamonds that you need to collect that only the punk one or the cute one can get. So you need to switch between them in the level, and sometimes you can only jump a certain thing or get over a bridge when you are playing one or the other. So it's really nice. It's a really nice mechanic which I had never seen before. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's just jumping around and getting stuff and going and finding stuff, and it's pretty fun. I would give it 7 out of 10.
Excellent.
That's it.
Keith.
Yes, I've been playing the obscure hipster indie game Grand Theft Auto Online. Yes.
Where's I've heard of that?
I don't know. I just heard some hipster friends.
That's what all the cool kids on Twitter are playing, isn't it?
Are you going to write about it in The Guardian at some point, or is it not quite?
All I've been doing for the last 2 weeks is writing about this game, but I mean it's fascinating. It's a fascinating experiment. And I mean, if you haven't heard of it, which is very possible, it's an extension of Grand Theft Auto 5, and essentially you go onto a server with 16 other people, and you have the whole of Los Santos to run around, steal cars, get involved in missions, buy clothes and weapons and that sort of thing. So it's a persistent online world based in Los Santos. I think what's fascinating about the game is that in some ways it's an analysis of how little you can interact with people, or how few areas of interaction there are in modern video games between human players. Like basically, when you meet a human character in Grand Theft Auto Online, pretty much your only interaction is to do some sort of waving gesture at them, or some other variation on that, or shoot them.
So what do you choose?
I sometimes I actually try and be peaceful. But there's not much you can do. I held up a convenience store the other day with another person. They came in and helped me, but then I accidentally hit them in the face with my gun and killed them.
It's really awkward, isn't it?
I know. But there's nothing. In some ways, it's kind of like a psychopathic version of Journey. In that it does what can you do non-verbally with another player in a kind of digital world, and you really realise the sort of limits of it. And every interaction is essentially the prisoner's dilemma. It's very, in that it's a zero-sum game in which you've got to work out in an instant how you're going to, how this is going to play out and what are the benefits. And it's very interesting. It's almost like a psychological experiment rendered into this enormously complex, persistent world.
What'd you give it?
I give it 7 out of 10.
Andrew.
Hello.
What have you been playing?
Yes, well, I thought I've been hearing a lot about 7 out of 10, so I've been thinking about my history and thinking, what would I give 7 out of 10 to? So I started it the other way around. And this is a challenge for your listeners to remember dilithium lift on the Spectrum. Now, that's a two-dimensional Space Invaders game, and we call it dilithium lift because it was a bit Space Invader-y, and we were frightened of actually infringing copyright. But it's a great game to play, but it only gets 7 out of 10 because the artwork was rubbish and because the name's stupid. So that would give it 5 out of 10, but it's retrieved actually by the music and sound effects, which are glorious. So I would recommend dilithium lift on the Spectrum, 7 out of 10.
Thank you.
I've just been doing some Googling. I've got dilithium lift up on YouTube right
Brilliant.
now. Maybe. I tell you what we'll do is we'll put some sounds of this on after we've heard from Science Officer.
Science Officer update. After over 3 years floating in deep space, this human specimen was eventually recovered from a damaged escape capsule. The human male has since returned to active duty, although his behavior has been erratic.
Science Officer's audio log. I'm getting back into the swing of being on a ship, but these regular Psych Officer checkups are becoming a drag, even though the last guy requested a transfer. I feel like I'm fulfilling my duties, but they keep talking about a disconnect between my behavior at work and my behavior in my off time. The guy even had a name for it. He called it ludonarrative dissonance. I think you mean ludonarrative disscience officer, I replied. He didn't laugh. He just made a note on his datapad. This psych officer even used my own audio logs against me. Listen to what you're talking about here, he said. Okay, sure, in that audio log, I'm talking about 3 potential entry points to the ship's reactor room and the various risk factors associated with each approach, and not in a particularly charismatic manner. But that's what I was told to do, and I did it. Then he showed me a video log, footage of me modifying the lab's laser sensor so I could use it for indoor skeet shooting. I actually use audio log data discs as the skeets, and I'm getting pretty good. They seem to have a problem with such ingenuity in the pursuit of giddiness. But the way I see it, I'm the one cooped up in here doing science and making audio logs the whole damn day. Why shouldn't I occasionally make my own fun? We're not all pre-programmed robots. Well, maybe that psych officer is. Right, I gotta go make an audio log about, let's see here, casually discuss the location of a vital key card. Sounds thrilling. But once I get that done, I can get back to building my fort out of specimen containment cages, because nothing soothes frustration like impromptu crenellations. Science Officer, out.
That's the Science Officer. You can read more or hear more at www.science-officer.blogspot.co.uk. And that sound is Dilithium Lift.
Bring back memories?
Oh, yes. Yes. I should have been writing 40 best machine code routines for the ZX Spectrum, but I was busy playing that at my desk.
Excellent. The sweet sounds of Dilithium Lift you're listening to. We've only got a couple of minutes left. We've got some business to conclude.
Yeah.
We do. Or conduct and conclude. Keith Stewart.
Yes.
It's no accident we find you here.
No.
We asked you to come here for a very special reason. On Thursday night, I'm not sure if you're aware, the Games Media Awards took place.
I am aware of that happening.
You were doing something more important, weren't you? Because you've won so many.
Yeah.
In fact, I recall that one you won, something you won for last year isn't even going this year, is it?
No, it isn't. No.
No.
It almost looks as though we set it up just
to win a GMA. Well, it worked. So we've been doing 200 shows. You set up a blog once, win a GMA, and then don't bother turning up the following year. Anyway, Anne has got your award here.
I've been looking after it, Simon.
You may have seen on social media, it's done the rounds. The comment I found most interesting, and Steve's comment underneath it made me laugh, was where Anne posted it on her sheets. Guy said, "Nice to meet you finally, Anne. Nice bed sheets," in the same post to imply that the same things had happened.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. But Keith Stewart, we'd like to present you with...
there it is. Thank you. I've been because Anne's been sending me text messages all through the weekend with pictures of the GMA Awards with her flatmates going out with her, that sort of, and a picture of it being knocked over by a giant rabbit, which is incredible. I think that's on Twitter now. So thank you very much.
Are you honoured to receive it?
I'm honoured to receive it from you guys, definitely.
So what have you brought for us?
Smarties.
We are running out of time. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on.
You're
so
welcome.
we need to look out for what on this
hints and tips of video game pioneers.
Keith, thanks for coming in. Love you. See you next week.
And you, I love you too.
Bye. We'll see you all next week. Thank you.
Bye bye.